Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. And as you know, in few days' time, November 3rd is arriving at our doors. And we will know whether Mr. Trump retains the White House or the challenger, Mr. Biden, makes an entry there. There are several issues arising out of that. This is a great campaign, great fight. It has been a bizarre fight. This is also very interesting in the sense that coronavirus played a game with the whole scenario. Campaigns have been restricted. So the question now arises, we are in the last 2 minutes of the football final drill, last 2 minutes. In cricket analogy, is the last over and Trump has to score 12 to win, or 13 to win, or 14 to win. In basketball analogy, it is 5 seconds remaining and Kobe Bryant is moving to the ball to score the three-pointer to win the match. So we are to draw the sports analogy to bring the point home. So we will discuss this matter as to how does the campaign stand today for both the teams, who is having a momentum, who has gained momentum after the second debate, and whether the results will be all out on November 3rd, or are we going to see a protracted battle happening, recounts and mail-in votes and everything else. So to discuss this entire election scenario, which is going to have significant impact and implication for the world around us, geopolitically, militarily, socially, and every single way that we can think of. I have some very good people here who have been on my show, and I decided to have some more people to share the thoughts, what's happening in their mind. It's like the mind working in the night before the dawn. Every soldier is thinking of his own thing. So the support for Trump or Biden's chances. Let's begin with introducing Dr. Deepak Nandi. He's an entrepreneur and a physician. I have Srilekha Palleji. She's an healthcare executive. And I have Shobha Chokalingamji. She's a cardiac professional. She's a doctor. I have Preeti Upula. She is a geopolitical expert, a fashion designer, and a beauty model as well. I have Mohan Sonti. Mohan Sonti is a system design architect.
Software architect.
And he works for Raytheon. And I have Dr. Sharma, Rakesh Sharmaji, who is Chief of Medicine and the Chief of ICU in one of the big hospitals in Smithtown in Long Island. So welcome to all of you. I would have left the floor open so each one can take the first shot, but I'm going to begin with Shobhaji. Since you are dealing with the matter of heart and mind, so tell us, how are you feeling about whoever candidate you are supporting going in the final shootout?
Thank you, Vibhuti ji, and thanks for having me here, and a warm welcome and greetings to all the other panelists. It's a joy and honor, as usual, to be on the Professor Vibhuti Jha show that I call. So really, very glad to be here. And to kind of dovetail into what you said, it's going to be dawn soon. Always remember, night is darkest before dawn. And that's very, very important. Never lose that momentum. And right now, as I see it, President Trump has clearly won after the second debate, where he let his opponent kind of, so to speak, proverbially dig his own grave, be it the fracking, where it was all a lot of lies back and forth about the fracking, and also about the law and order situation. And, the Hunter Biden laptop matter has surfaced, and it has really gotten people thinking what's going on. And President Trump, I feel in the campaign, is like the Superman. He started out in Wisconsin. Well, he started out in Battle Creek, Michigan. And in an hour or so, he was in Wisconsin. And then at night, 9:30 p.m. CST, he's in Nebraska. And the crowd is swelling with every one of his stopovers. And he's a brilliant rock star. And like you mentioned, Mike Jordan, Kobe Bryant, we've got a rock star of a president. And, and also always remember, it's the quality that matters. Yes, the voting quantity definitely matters, but it's the substance. And I always say, truth alone triumphs, and truth is God. And when God is on our side, us Indian Americans need to know the Pandavas were only 5. The Kauravas were 100, but who won in the end? It's the truth and justice and the wonderful patriotic make America great that he truly, truly does. Be it the veterans, be it as a healthcare physician, as a doctor. I want to see the prescription costs for my patients come down. And he's done just that. He's cut away the middlemen. So prescription for cost for insulin and other drugs has dropped. So he's done fabulous things like holding China accountable and law and order. I mean, I can't name enough. The list is about 100 plus.
I definitely see the strong passion and support you have for Trump, and I wish I'm able to send him this clipping of yours to him. And this is important. This is very important because this is the first time I'm seeing that how energetically, how animatedly, and how passionately Indians are engaged in this election, and they're participating in it. So you said some very good things about the entire scenario. I have one observation to make about the debate, and you brought that matter in, that when Biden talked about the immigration, fixing the immigration thing in 100 days when I go into my office, that was a wonderful moment for Trump to pitch in. And he pitched in about his 47 years, that you were a vice president only 4 years ago. Why didn't you do something? And from then on, that constant, in the boxing language, you say you keep punching and jabbing at him. The 47 years, what did you do? And I really acutely observed Biden, and I saw his discomfiture. He really had no answer.
Come on, man.
There is another point which I wanted to bring to attention, and I would seek Deepak's thought on that. I was very disturbed when I saw a policy prescription from Biden saying that he will bring Muslims in every level of his administration. Now, I'll also explain why I was upset, because this is where I saw that Democrats became absolutely bare naked with their vote bank politics. I would have been equally uncomfortable, let me put it this way. I would have been equally uncomfortable if he had publicly declared that I will put Hindus in every level of administration, or Jews, or Christians, or only women, and only IT guys. This becomes a gameplay of political vote bank pandering. And we all know how he has pandered to Muslim community here. Deepak, do you think it will affect him? Or he definitely gets assured with the Muslim vote, but does it affect people like you and I? Because I'm upset about that. I will frankly and truthfully say I'm upset with that policy prescription.
I'm sure it will affect in the battleground states, with the majority of Episcopalian population and with the massive tides of Muslims and genuine fear of the Sharia laws and the recent incidents in France where a French teacher was slaughtered by the Muslim, which there is definitely a fear, and it will have a repercussion. But the most important thing that is God is on Trump's side is the economy. Today, the economy had a 34% growth in the GDP announced. This will work like magic for Trump. The other thing that Shobhaji's talked about, that 11 million jobs will be lost because of getting rid of fracking and getting rid of the energy industry altogether. The third thing, we are seeing that the Trafalgar score is showing 48% for Trump. And today, just now, 10 minutes back, FBI just announced that they have a major investigation going on Hunter Biden, and that can also draw up Joe Biden. And nobody would like Kamala Harris to become the president of the United States and radical left totally. We are seeing that the sun is rising in the last moment, and the end of the darkness is happening. The doom and gloom will not happen, and I can see the shade of sun coming up. And come November 3rd, just like I predicted last year, Trump will win. He will win again this year. People in America love energy. They love optimism. They live for a bright future. They live for the American dream. Nobody lives for doom and gloom. Nobody lives for regulation, higher taxes, depression, and eventual death. And that will happen if you have Mr. Biden coming in. He's himself suffering from his apathy, cognitive decline. He himself is suffering from many other illnesses, and he is having legal issues, medical issues. And I don't think when people close the curtain, they were going to vote for Mr. Biden. I think what we are going to see is the whole media will be surprised, like what happened during the Dukakis time, where everything came out red. Because remember, winner takes it all. And
Right.
the winner takes it all in every state except Nebraska and New Hampshire, and Maine, sorry. So if the winner takes it all, you will see that Trump will definitely win in all the states.
That's a very powerful and strong forecast, Deepak. And as a Trump supporter, I'm definitely hoping that to be absolutely 100% accurate. So coming, said Mohan raised his hand, so I'm going to check with Mohan about one thing particularly. Do you think election results will be known on November 3rd, or the big data? The only two groups of people know the true data, both the campaigns. They know what is happening inside. Rest of the polling is depending on whose polling you look at. And Deepak mentioned about Trafalgar and a couple of other polls, but that has been because the mainstream polling has been very disastrous. It is skewed in favor of Democrats. So as one of the pollsters said, that if Trump wins, polling business will be out of business. So because nobody will trust any polling business hereafter. But it's deja vu time all over again. So I wanted to check with you your thoughts on whatever you wanted to say about when you raised your hand. In addition, about the possibility, do we have a result on November 3rd, or we have to wait for a few days?
All right. So the reason I raised my hand is one point I wanted to mention is the events, not just in France that happened in the past, but there are new events that happened just today.
Yes.
So regarding your previous question on, giving all this, a lot of good plum positions to Muslims, I think they're doing their part pretty well in France. So people understand it, and those are the happening events. So they can see a reflection of that pretty soon in America. So obviously, I think people learn it from somebody else's experience. So I think we'll do good in that. Now, regarding the results on November 3rd, I know that some of the states like Georgia and few other states have extended it till November 7th for the deadline for USPS to deliver the mails. But as I understand from my basic analysis, I think about 10 states is when things are going to get delayed with the mail-in ballot, of which most of the states are already blue. So can we know the results on November 3rd? I believe we'll actually get the victory on November 3rd with the assumption that the rest of the states don't matter. And those are going to be more like a bonus. I mean, we would just look at 8 of those 10 states are already blue states, clear blue states. So you could just add those numbers and it'll still be a victory. So I think people will know it by November 3rd is my opinion. But by November 7th is when they will actually conclude it. So for our conclusion, I would say those numbers don't probably matter. They shouldn't matter at all.
Srilekha ji, if I were to connect with you on this matter, that 80 million people till Thursday evening had voted in,
yep.
Right? Whether it in person, mail in, or whatever. But there was one very interesting data that came out, was that the 40 million votes have not come in yet. And people are concerned that some states will not allow delayed counting. And the fact that some of the people are talking that it's 2-1 in favor of Democrats, is that true? Because you are a hardcore Republican in terms of ground presence. Share your thoughts about this early voting. And large number of people participating is a victory of democracy. That is definitely good. I'm checking with you whether this large number of voting, where does this go in overall scheme of things?
So Vibhuti ji, that's actually a wonderful question. And I run campaigns and elections for Fairfax County GOP. So I kind of see what is happening in the ground level. In fact, I actually divide sample ballots for the party at the ground level. So it all depends upon the county level. So in Fairfax County, for Republican side of things, turnover is actually not very good for Republicans. So when you have such high turnout, that's actually a bad sign for Republicans, because then you know Democrats are the ones that are coming in droves. Then you're having a lot of low information voters. And we also have what is called as Adams Center around here, where we know what is happening in Adams Center, which is a lot of Muslims are told how to vote. There is a block voting that is happening. There is a lot of unionized votes that are basically told how to vote. There is no more retail voting that's happening. So basically these union votes are a controlled voting system that are basically told by a person. They're given democratic ballots and are just basically told to vote all blue. So in this particular part of county, which is Northern Virginia area, so when you see that high volume of voter turnaround, that's bad for Republicans. Whereas if you go down the south of the area, if you see that happening, that's good for Republicans. So it completely depends upon the area.
So do you think that Republican voters will come on physically on November 3rd?
So yes.
Or this is it?
So Republicans are very traditional Republicans, right? So if you're seeing high turnout on election day, that's all Republicans. If you're seeing high turnout before elections, that's all Democrats. Mm-hmm. So that's just how Northern Virginia is structured. So currently what we are seeing is all Democrats coming out.
But there was a very interesting data. This was a thing that Democrats are outvoting Republicans 2-1.
That is correct.
In reality, there is only one place it is happening. It has happened. Only one place that the Democrats have outvoted. Otherwise, early voting in a couple of states, Republicans are ahead. And majority of the places, it's narrower, much narrower than 2-1. And that observer was talking about the fact that it could be a good sign for Republicans. What do you think, Preeti, about that?
Well, namaste, and thank you for having me on your show. There's so many ways to look at this. I think as far as the just the with the ballots and so on, yes, I think there is obviously a large silent majority that will show up on the election day. They don't usually take polls, and they don't even share who they're voting for. So just like 2016, I think there'll be a repeat of that. I'm suspecting that some of these mail-in ballots will be invalidated at some point in certain states, which is going to work out, I think, obviously for the conservatives. And I mean, it's interesting. I think this Supreme Court nominee nomination and the proceedings, and now the appointment, changes the game, because now you can add in another element to the mix. The way I look at it, I think there's two scenarios. One is Trump wins in a landslide. The second is he doesn't win, but he contests it. And that's when a contested election will eventually end up in the Supreme Court, where it needs to be decided judicially. And I think that's when his pick will sort of come to the rescue, so to speak. So that's the very, very last straw, I think. So if you look at those scenarios, I mean, if he wanted to push it all the way, he could do it legally. And so I just even think it's not even feasible that the Dems can win, sort of in a clear fashion. It's going to be very messy. I suspect that it won't just be contested with the presidential race. I think some of the Senate races might also be contested. I think there's a lot going on with the Senate races.
Right.
Very tight, flipping, and all sorts of interesting things happening, and people really questioning, what has Congress done for us? What have the politicians done for us across the board? I think the American people are very, very angry.
I think what you said, Preeti, is absolutely correct. And I think you echoed Deepak's sentiment that win in either way, whether I win landslide. If I don't win landslide, I have the courts to support because there are so many judicial matters, the challenge that has to be done. But I'll come to another topic, and I want to bring in Dr. Sharma in this. If most of you may or may not know, he did my COVID test post October 1, my trip to Bedminster Club, and he declared me negative, which was a remarkably positive news. So thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. And he's also in charge of an ICU, and he has been in the, if I know anyone who has been the forefront of COVID battle, this is him. So I'm privileged to know you, doctor. A lot has been talked about. This winter surge in coronavirus has happened. And it's very interesting that the coronavirus surge is happening in the battleground states. And one of the segments of voters that Trump might lose is the senior citizens who feel that Trump didn't do enough. So I have admired your input on this, and I want my audience and all the people to hear your thoughts about that again, as to what Biden is talking about. I would have done differently. I say, sorry, Biden, you wouldn't even have known what to do, because you would have been sitting on trying to derive a consensus based on scientific principles, and science would have been given you multiple options. The question of decision making would have become key as a leader. So, doctor, your thought on coronavirus, and how fair is the process to judge Donald Trump only on corona success or coronavirus?
Okay, so Vibhuti, looks like you have put me in the witness box in a court, so I have to tell the truth and nothing but the truths. So I have to put my hand on Gita. So if it comes down to COVID-19 only, then I would not call it politics. So election is never fought on one point or just one agenda. As far as voters are concerned, they look at everything that incumbent has done or the challenger is asking to do. So President Trump has done a lot for the country in the last 4 years.
Yes.
We all know that, whether it's taking China for whatever they have been doing, or being very nationalistic, building a wall, economy, unemployment, all these positive things. So President scores in all those things. When it comes to COVID-19, since I took the oath and to tell the truth, I will only tell the truth. I'm not bringing Vice President Biden into this equation yet, but if I'm just talking about President Trump, I think he did not do a very good job. I'm a big supporter of President. Everyone in my hospital knows that if there's one diehard fan of Trump, that is Rakesh Sharma. So people hate me if they don't like Trump, and they love me if they love Trump. But when it comes to COVID-19, I think we did blunders in the United States. There is something to expect from a leader. Whether President Trump was misled by Fauci or anybody else, I don't know. But I think leaders do have a certain responsibility. And in COVID-19, one good thing that President did was to ban flights from China. I don't blame him for not blocking flights from Europe, because nobody knew about Europe at that time. But when it comes to taking precautions, means mask and other things, I think President did not do a good job. And I actually blame Anthony Fauci also. He behaved more like a layman than as a doctor. I'm really ashamed that Fauci is at the forefront. If I was the leader of this country, I would have fired Fauci a long time ago. I think he's only a Monday morning quarterback. If you all recall, Fauci didn't even say to wear mask for at least 2 months after we had outbreak of COVID-19 in US. So whether you blame President or Fauci, I don't know, but leadership is the one that needs to be blamed. At the same time, I also blame all the governors of US and the senators, congressmen because it's not just the president who's responsible to deal with COVID-19, because states have their own responsibility. And most of the states did a terrible, terrible job. Only person I would recommend who did great job was Governor of Ohio, who very early on told that he's actually blocking people from leaving Ohio State or coming into Ohio. So I will give him 10 out of 10. Yes. Now coming to Biden, Vice
You
President
have 1 minute for Biden.
yeah, Vice President Biden is being a Monday morning quarterback. I don't think he would have done any better. The reason being, he has never taken any decisive step in his life. He has not been a leader. So he may say whatever he wants to say, but he would not have done anything good either as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So would someone else have done a good job? Maybe. I think we missed the boat when it comes to COVID-19 in United States. And we are seeing the second surge in most of the states right now. The reason being, there is no national policy on COVID-19. There is no leader to say, hey guys, let's do 1, 2, 3. And I blame that on actually states also, because federal government does not have that much right to tell the states what to do. That is a bad concept we have in US. If you all recall, in India, we have different governments, but Modi alone shut down the entire country, no matter who was running the different states. And that's what we lack in US.
That's a very elaborate explanation, and I would want Deepak to say something on this matter, because Dr. Sharma referred to national policy and the state jurisdiction in this matter. And so the question arises that we know that the economy is going to have a V-shaped progression. So the second quarter, the market tanked by 30. Economy tanked by 31.3%. And after the lockdowns are gone and economy is opening up, we have a 34.3% gain here. So Deepak, is it possible in the United States, considering that these pandemics and natural disasters would happen, that the state authority, so that you have a national policy in these matters, like Dr. Sharma said, for example, what is disgusting is that New York and California governors have announced that even if the vaccine comes, we will subject it to our test by our doctors and our local leaders, and then we will let them think about implementing it. What do you think about the chaos when it comes to handling pandemics?
So when the United States was formed, the 13 states got together and they had decided what belongs to the federal government and what belongs to the state government, like printing of money, treasury, defense, belong to the federal government. Healthcare is a state domain, and the federal government has very minuscule input in this whole thing. Remember, Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama during the H1N1 epidemic did much very, very worse compared to President Trump. When President Trump took over, there was no testing materials. There was no PPP. There was nothing. He got this whole virus as a total surprise. And this Anthony Fauci, who says he's an infectious disease specialist, was never trained in infectious disease. He is an immunologist. An immunologist is a very different person than an infectious disease specialist. And nobody in the media has called him that he is not a trained infectious disease specialist. It is a 3-year fellowship after medicine. Anthony Fauci, who belongs to the Italian craziness, is the guy who kept giving different version to President Trump. He was listening to him. He first said it is a small flu-like thing. Then Fauci told him, you don't need mask. He told him, you don't need to ban the travel thing. He banned it. President Trump took it very seriously, but he can do only so much. He was given misdirection. And then 30% of the death happened. Why? Because guys like Governor Cuomo put the COVID patients in the nursing homes. In nursing home, you have old patients who are almost on one leg to the death. one fit in the death, and now you bring in corona patients, and there goes the infection. It was mostly the death that happened in the nursing homes that killed 30% of the population. But the media took whole advantage of the coronavirus and saw it as a total blessing on them to use it against President Trump. How? They wanted to kill the economy. So shut the economy, shut the country down. That was one strategy, because they were totally envious that the unemployment had come down to 3.2%. This is the best presidential economy we ever had. So all this Ivy League trained, including my daughters, who liberal guys sitting together, did all the intellectual masturbation together to figure out how to kill the economy, how to kill President Trump. They did the total fake of the media. They did not care even if these old people will die. Let them die so that I have a higher number, so that I can show them. This is the tragedy of the liberal media. This is what happens in communist nations. This is what happened in socialist nation. I come from Bengal, Calcutta. Remember, Siddhartha Shankar Ray would every night come and kill up 50,000 young guys to kill the Naxals in the name of the Naxal. This is what communism does. They go and do massacres. They do. This is what happened. The liberal media all got together and figured out ways to take advantage of this whole situation. The hospitals, what the hospital doctors, they started doing DRG billing 3 times. So a patient dying of congestive heart failure, but because he's in the last day in the hospital, has coronavirus, not that becoming the primary disease, billed it as a coronavirus death and got 3 times the reimbursement. So what we see is the total taking advantage of the swamp. You know what I mean? The deep state and the swamp got together. And President Trump, we will not succeed till in his next term, move all the buildings out of Washington, D.C. The Department of Interior needs to go to Idaho. The Department of Health needs to go to Minnesota. The department, they don't need to go to the same cocktail parties. Every building should be spread out in different red states. True representation of America will come, and it will be not segregated in North Virginia. This is what I've been telling to Donald Trump Jr. 3 things has to happen. Article 230 has to be vanished. New York Times versus Sullivan case has to be overturned. And these buildings needs to be moved throughout the country so that everything does not happen in Washington, D.C. So you don't have these cocktail parties at this swamp where the right hand scratches the left hand. Right now,
Mohan, thank you, Deepak. That was a very, very powerful, strong, case you made. Mohan, you have something to say. Then I will go to Shrilekha ji and Preeti, and then Shobha ji. So I warned you to be ready in the sequence.
All right. So, so I just have a quick point about this, just mostly from a political standpoint. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anyone, but mostly from a political standpoint, you can see that you have like America as a federal structure. So president itself doesn't have as many powers. It's the states that have the power, right? Short of an emergency, which is not going to happen. So unless Trump declares an emergency and everything is under his control, which is like a dictatorship, which is not going to happen.
Right.
So in which case, all the states have the power. So when the states have the power, then if you look at the statistics till June end, and I have stats with me right in front of me, 7 or 8 of the 10 states that had the highest COVID cases are all Democratic states. So from a political standpoint, what I can say is, if there's a murder, then the question is like, who benefits from it, right? So why would anyone want to solve it? Why would democratic states would solve a problem that the whole nation is facing? They don't want to solve it. That is politics. So it's not a surprise that 8 out of 10 states that had the highest COVID is from democratic states. And now, since we have lost the war on COVID, then Trump turned to what he's really good at, which is economy. And then you see the whole turnover. Things flip over like a coin. And now they want to impose restrictions that are never heard of, that are beyond what is even legally advisable or legally even possible. Like in Michigan, where the court itself overturned those restrictions and said that's illegal. So now you see they have killed the system here, they killed people here, and then they want to kill the economy. So that's a comprehensive story. The problem America has is the election time. And if something bad happened, in my political viewpoint, I don't think the ruler actually gains anything by ruining the country. It is the opposition that gains it, and which they did a handsome job of. All the statistics show that. In Bharat, what happened is exactly the same, except for the fact that it is not an election time, one, and two, over 20 states in Bharat is ruled by BJP. So anyone who does not behave well looks up like a sore thumb, and Delhi did it. Kejriwal did exactly the same thing. In America, half the states are ruled by Democrats, and they did exactly the same thing. I say, ideally, if you do a forensic analysis, I would call the Democrats are the murderers. That is the real fact. All right. Because nobody else gains from it. And now that have murdered the people, now they want to murder the economy, because that's what Trump is trying to save now. So that, I think, is the political truth.
That is a very astute analysis you made, because it echoes with my thought that, who gains? And like I said to you, that 9 out of 10 times, the incumbent president has won the election if the economy has been doing above average. And one thing which I do know, call it conspiracy theory or otherwise, is the fact that there was no way Trump was going to lose if coronavirus hadn't happened, and the kind of lockdowns that were forced upon. That is the important part. Dr. Sharma and I talked about one-on-one the first time, and he said, it was an education for me when he said that, Vibhuti, do you know there are 30,000 to 40,000 people die every year because of common flu? People don't stop living, breathing, and so many people die in accidents. So the people don't stop driving the car. But because people did not know what is the solution to this challenge, there was no medication, there was no vaccine. So it became an opportunity that you are describing as imposed. I'm a cause and effect guy. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. We all met for a reason that we are having this conversation. I didn't come to America knowing in advance that I was going to meet you guys. None of you planned it. But we are meeting today, and this is also for a reason. So who benefited from this coronavirus thing? Who is benefiting? Because I think the Democrats realized they were the ones who brought about the theory of the Russian dossier, right? They are the ones who are colluding with China. Where did the China virus come from? China. Nobody's talking about that. Sri Lanka ji, I'm shifting from coronavirus because it's a life and death issue. So we needed to talk, and you are a healthcare professional. So, it would be unfair for me not to ask you to comment on that. But I want you to address another issue that has emerged in the last few days, and the virtual intellectual gatekeeping being done by Twitter, Facebook, what to print and what to not to print, what to allow on their websites and what to disseminate. So Hunter Biden is a Russian, what is the word used? Russian election misinformation campaign, right? As if Russian dossier by Hillary Clinton was not. So the funny thing is that you stop the Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner Twitter account because he said that building the wall has helped criminals not to come and our crime rates have gone down. But that knowledge was public knowledge because he couldn't block mine. So I disseminated that information. So share with us on both the accounts, briefly on Corona because you are a healthcare professional, but on the intellectual gatekeeping by the technology companies to prevent a sort of a gag order that we will not let you talk about Hunter Biden because it's not a verifiable truth.
Sure. Let me just go back. I must admit, the first time, this may be the first and last time I may have to completely disagree with Dr. Rakesh Sharma ji. I think no president would have done a better job than President Trump. Remember, President Trump was the only president in the entire world who stood by in front of his country 2 hours each day for the next 2 or 3 weeks, taking questions from the hardcore press. And he knew that these press were not in favor of him, took any questions that they were willing to ask. And these were not favorable questions. These were CNN people. He knew that they are going to not give him a good press. He was willing to stand in front of him and take brutal questions. And he knew that Fauci was not his friend to begin with. He was willing to let his ego aside and let Fauci lead the team because he knew he wanted Fauci, Dr. Fauci, to kind of lead the team. And one thing Biden said during the debate was that you hid all the truth because you thought American people would panic. American people don't panic. No, American people would panic. Did you see that the minute coronavirus thing came out, people were near Costco buying toilet paper and filling the cart with toilet paper? If these things, there were certain things that President Trump did not come out because the entire stock market would have crashed the day one if President Trump did not restrain some parts of the information. There is a reason why President Trump kind of staggered the information, unlike Biden, because Biden wanted this entire economy to fail. There is a reason why he's in the opposition party, because he had a very good incentive for the entire economy to fail, whereas President did not want this country to fail. So I must have to completely agree with Deepak ji and Mohan. So moving on to
here,
the
this is great that you said what you said. Dr. Sharma is smiling. All of us are good friends. I will not have a battle royal on that. We have spent enough time on coronavirus, so that argument is over. But tell me about that intellectual gatekeeping. That's my favorite phrase, that whether it's a Google or wherever they are indulging in, and I'm angry about that.
Yeah,
this is a censorship. What I saw in India in emergency, and that must not happen here.
Yeah. And I think, and that's precisely what I tell about this social media. I mean, that's exactly what it is, socialism, right? I mean, the way liberals are fan of socialism, I say this Facebook and Twitter are all moving towards the socialism. I mean, we call it as free medium of information. The minute we start using all of these alternative medium as they're form of socialism. You use it for free. They kind of utilize our information and ban us however they would like us to ban. Are they doing what they're doing is right? No, it's not at all right. But again, that is one form of socialism. What they're doing is completely wrong. But do we have other choices? No, we don't have any other choices. I think Mohanji, you are a policy expert. If you would like to elaborate on that.
Actually, the previous
30 seconds to elaborate on that. Yeah, go ahead, Mohan.
So the previous conversation, I think the last time interview, it kind of ended with on that point. So the most important thing that every American need to know is the difference between a publisher and a platform.
Yep.
So media is a publishing company. They have a certain set of rights and they have certain set of duties, some certain checks of balances, right? A platform is a different kind of a system where they only need to comply with the most basic rules, such as you cannot allow an R content, or you cannot allow pedophilia, you cannot allow a bunch of things. Except for those things, they cannot be the judge of what is the right and the wrong content, what is true and lies. That is the rule of a platform. A publishing company, when CNN says something, they better back it up. That is a publisher. When we have the differentiation, each one have their own specific licenses and everyone has their own specific rules and guidelines, and they get that. Google, Twitter, and Facebook are platforms. So they have no right to tell anyone on what is the right content, what is truthful and what is not truthful. I have the right to say that I flew to the moon on my wings. They cannot stop that because they're not the judges of truth and not truth. Publisher can stop that. CNN can say that is not a valid news. I'm sure you didn't fly on your wings to moon, but platform cannot do that. So what they did is technically breaking the laws. That needs to be brought up. Other than the fact that they're very powerful and they're in the pockets of Democrats, ideally, I think they can be taken to the court for registering as a platform, because Twitter and Facebook are platforms. People need to understand the difference between platform and publisher. CNN is
Thank you,
publisher.
Mohan.
Twitter
Thank
is a
you very
platform.
much.
You need to understand the difference.
Yeah. Thank you very much for explaining. Preeti, I have one inquiry with you in terms of the foreign policy and Hunter Biden foreign policy. Since you are a geopolitical expert, is to tell us something about the murky deals always happen in international arena. So let's not fudge around that. Murky deals always happen. But how do you respond to the fact that Hunter Biden, did all the kind of things that he did as a benefit of law and democracy? Not guilty until proven. But from whatever is coming out as the information, what is the extent to which you feel that these are manipulated data or they were real data?
Yeah, I think freedom of speech in this country is a joke after this example of, outlets and platforms now acting as outlets that are suppressing data information. Seems like to be truthful and very evidential. Look, yes, all politicians have deals here and there. I think what makes all of this really bad is because Joe, and he kept saying even in the debates, he paints a picture that he has never made money from any foreign country, and he's never benefited, and his whole family is also kosher, which they're not. I think with the Trump and his empire or his campaign, they're not pretending to be angels. But I think with the Biden campaign, the more they pretend that they're pure and angelic, and all of this stuff is coming out as we speak, it looks worse. So that was a really bad mistake. I think
And I
even when
think
he
Tony
knew that,
Bobulinski on Tucker's
yes,
program,
I saw
my
that.
God, I would do 1 full hour. He kind
I
of
mean,
exposed.
this is politics of access, and a lot of these dealings were illegal. It's actually a breach of national security. That's the problem. It's not about somebody making a buck on the side. It's when you take funds, then you're completely vulnerable, to your benefactor and your donor. So I think it's a breach of national trust, national security. You think about cybersecurity, things like terrorism, all of these issues come into play. And I'm happy that this story is now very hot. I mean, I remember there was a beautiful post on Facebook today saying around the world, front page news is this laptop story, except in America. I mean, I do all these news channels and news interviews with channels globally, but also in India, and even CNN in India talks about the laptops. So why isn't this, it should be front page news, but nobody wants to touch it. And I watched their I guess their points on foreign policy. It is so scary to see a discontinuation of the administration. I think if you get somebody else in, it's going to be very tricky in when you think about different conflicts, whether it's the Indo-Pacific, the South China Seas, or so on, because these things, we have had great alliances formed just recently. Everybody's ready to go. And then I think to disrupt that, and then maybe people have the new administration will have a different view on the alliances. This is not going to pan out well for America or its allies. So I
Thank you.
really
Thank you
worry
very
about
much. Thank you very much for your thought. Shobhaji, I was going to go back to the debate number 2 that happened, and Trump was very, very well composed. I won't say well behaved. I would say he was very well composed. Behavior is a subjective matter. You may like my behavior, I may like yours, but 100 other people may not like our behavior. So behavior is a subjective matter. But the majority of the people, I find, Indians particularly, he behaves so badly. I said, be specific. What do you mean by his behavior is bad? You do not want a pope to run your country. Let's be very clear. Politics is a very different kettle of fish. So how do you address that question of Indians particularly, who say that, his behavior is bad? So I asked, what point? Your thoughts on this?
Sure, that's a very important point. I want to remind what Major Gaurav Arya, who's a retired Army general, said. President Trump
He's a
is
major, not general. He was a major. He's a major, retired as
Okay,
a major.
well, army person.
Yes, yes, army person,
Yes, yes. He seems to be very well versed and very eloquent. And he said, President Obama was kind in words, and President Trump is kind in actions. And we need to decide what we want: a meaty churi, and then stabs you in the back, or do you want someone who's going to rush to help you in the moment of need? When China attacked India at the line of control, actual control, it was Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, who first issued the statement. We're not going to stand by and watch when our allies are getting pounded by China. And, even before MEA Jaishankarji said anything. So coming back to the actual debate, I mean, in our profession, 1 second, a few seconds can mean life or death. We don't sugarcoat. We just do the action. And Trump is a New Yorker. And I love that about him. There is so much time that's lost in being nice. And nice only goes so far. One of my nurses, says, nice only goes so far. Then you have to do the action. So who are they kidding? For example, Biden and Kamala Harris ticket. Yeah, they're nice. They're sugar coated. And, they might send troops, sure, in Kashmir. And then the troops, American troops, would be on the side of Pakistan. Are you guys okay with that? With that honey-coated sugar talk? How about, I want to see all the 3 Democrat presidents that we know, Clinton, Obama, 2, I should say, but I mean, Vice President Biden, they all would come to India, have these wonderful Rashtrapati Bhavan tea parties, go over to China and give it the most favored nation, welcome China into the World Trade Organization. And, they never wanted India to progress. They wanted to keep it all suppressed and always wanted to strengthen Pakistan. Now, is that what the Indian Americans want? And let me tell you, Trump is all about action. When you're in the actual grounds doing action, there's really no time to be too sweet. He's not there to please anyone. He's there to get the work done. Here, for example, I'll be very honest. I never thought in my lifetime I'll see a peace deal in the Middle East. And I'm not, in the Medicare age group or anything, but Trump made it happen. And more Middle Eastern countries are joining it. And he's bringing the troops home. You don't need to be sweet. You just have to do the right things. So Indian Americans, I think they're a little too emotional, and they need to step back. We're in America, and look at the facts, look at the policies. And your taxes are being cut. It's not that it's the only thing to worry about, but whether it's Democrats or Republicans, everybody is going to enjoy that tax break. Businesses, the tax was cut from 35% to 21%. That is remarkable. So the good things, judge a man by his actions, not by his words.
Thank you. Dr. Sharma, I mean, one of the things, very important thing is that what is important, like my favorite quote is from satirist P.J. O'Rourke, who said, this country will forever have a serious problem in having a comprehensive foreign policy or a comprehensive immigration policy, because everyone is a goddamn foreigner or an immigrant. So the interests clash. So keeping that particular quote in mind, we have to think about it from the Indian point of view. From the Indian point of view, who emerges in your mind as the better candidate to suit the Indian conditions, primarily also because, I read somewhere that 90% of the Vietnamese are wondering, why are Indians looking at a guy who is looking at a socialist policy? Haven't you suffered enough that you want to have a guy who wants to bring socialist policy here in this country? So if you were to appeal to fellow Indians, that guys, don't change your clothing of chola of a Democrat, but vote Republican, because this is the man who is most suited for you and I for reasons. We don't want to pay higher taxes because we are in the highest income bracket. We are peace-loving people. Our religion is peace-loving. So our Sanatan principles are peace-loving. So we don't like these Black Lives Matter or leftist loonies attacking businesses which are all the small and medium businesses. Like your business and everybody's business is, we are all into small and medium businesses, regardless of whatever money we are making. We have one office. Why must Indians be enamored by the democratic charm? I have a theory, but I'll tell you after that, after what you have said.
Okay, I think we Indians who grew up in India have one bad teaching that we realize now. And the bad teaching is we were only taught about Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. From our childhood, we were told that these two people made India and that's what we should follow. So Indians, before even they come to US, they all were Democrats. If you all remember, we used to love JFK. So as soon as we came to US, we thought JFK was the best president. He was a Democrat. So we all became Democrats when we entered United States. Number two, when we live here enough, we realize that we need to follow those leaders who are actually good for this country as well as for the country that we left. So when we look at that, we finally realize that it's President Trump who actually will take care of India or will stand with India, not Biden, not Bill Clinton, or not anyone else who belong to Democratic Party. So if I have to choose between Vice President Biden and President Trump, we all know the answer very well. I have been biggest fan of Trump when he started to run for primary in 2015, actually. And coming down to Indians who live here, what's my approach to them? Very simple. If you vote for Biden, you want more Islamists in India, you want China to take some other part of JFK, J&K or Ladakh, or do you want a president who's going to stand with you? Do you want a president who will keep Islamist people away from India? So Indian Americans who live in this country, I just have one request. Please leave Gandhian theory at home. Do whatever you want. You want to say in public that you love Biden, that's okay with me. But when you go to the go for vote, please vote for President Trump, because he's the one who's going to take care of the country that you left, and he's the one who's going to take care of the country that you live in.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I mean, this has been a fascinating, points made by all of you on Corona, on debate, 47 years versus 47 months. And, one of the things, as Rakesh ji rightly said, that we suffer from the fatigue of Gandhi and Nehru. And somebody said that there is a charm factor about presidency. So look at John F. Kennedy, look at, other than Reagan, John F. Kennedy, you look at Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, they're very charming people. They're very charming people. Look at George Bush, Senior and Junior, Trump, they're not charming people. And besides, most of the Indians live in heavy democratic states, New Jersey, New York, and California. And as a result of which, it's but natural for them to become part of the winning party of the state. Because many a times we all need political favors or anything. It is good to be in the good books of politicians. So what the hell, we are politicians. But I think the die is cast. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, it is wonderful to have you. November 3rd, do what is the most right thing to do. And it is not always the right thing, do the better thing to do. There is always, you can't find a right answer, but do the thing that is better. And better for you, violence, taxes, India. These are the three issues that Indians must consider who to vote for. So to all of you, thank you very much. Hopefully we will all celebrate November 3rd or 4th. And you will be happy to know, I was one of the deplorables who in 2016 attended Trump's inaugural ball in DC. So I'm looking forward to a bigger band of Indians going there, because I was perhaps amongst the very few Indians who were there. So on that happy note, have a great weekend, great elections, and a good win. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Namaste.
everyone. Namaste.
Namaste ji.